Thank you very much. Before starting, I wanted to thank Felipe and everybody for organizing the day today. Really interesting, and also the last few days I've had here. But everybody has congratulated Professor Pretsch for his award that he'll be getting tomorrow. But I think we should also thank him because we're here because of all the work he's done up to today. So thank you very much. We're here because of you. And so I'm here to talk about a little bit the work which has been carried out, and by one person in particular. It's Laurie Dupont-le-Duc, which is a PhD student of mine, which will be finishing, well, she should defend her thesis in early July. And I found that her results are pretty interesting, so I'll try to summarize all of her 4 or 5 years' work in now, 9.5 minutes left. But before starting my presentation, I just want to underline a little bit how the importance of diversity is going to be coming up, at least in the province of Quebec. I'm sure that you have all heard of the forest fires which happened last year in the province of Quebec. We had 4.5 million hectares of forests which were burned, considering that we have at least the management forests under management in the province of Quebec, it's around 46, 47 million hectares. So we're talking about 10% of the forests which have been burnt. And so to give you an idea on the map here, so at the bottom of the map, we're about at the height of Bordeaux, at the mid-height of the map, which is about the limit of the managed forests. It's Brussels, so we're talking about 600 and 700 kilometers in length and probably around 1,000 kilometers in width. And to give you an idea of the size of the forest, so this here was one fire which was 1 million hectares, and the fire down here was 500,000 hectares. And so with that, the forester-in-chief came out last fall and said, well, we have to manage our forests not for wood volume, but we also have to integrate natural disturbances and fires. And with the climate change, we will see more and more years of fire as the one which we had last year. And so this kind of got out a debate within the scientific community, where on one side there is a Christian Messier, which says that, well, we have to diversify our forests, especially in the north where we only have black spruce and jack pine forests, and we need to integrate more diversity, and so we should plant broadleaf species there. And then the rest of the scientific community says, well, maybe not go towards more engineering our forests, but maybe we should help our forests just to shove along a little bit further. And so the debate of how to use diversity, how to integrate it within the forest management will become, at least in my neck of the woods, a lot more important within the next few years. And with this, I'll come back to the PhD of my student. So you can see Laurie Dupont-le-Duc on the top left corner of the slide. And so most of the work and all of the slides, it's her work, and I'm just here as an intermediate. And so her thesis, what she was looking at was, as we all know, is that diversity can influence productivity. And there was one study by Christian Messier and Alain Paquette in 2011, which has shown that also in the province of Quebec, there is some gain in productivity due to diversity. But there was a few questions on, but what type of diversity exactly can help out? So that was the first part of the chapter, her first chapter, in looking at the interaction with climate. And I'll go over one quick result with that. But however, what we also thought of is that wind plays also a very important role in structuring at least tree growth. As you know, trees under high winds will reallocate their resources from height growth to diameter growth, or root growth also. So trying to understand what is the link between diversity and wind to quantify productivity, and to go through that link between diversity and wind, well, we also thought that canopy structure plays also an important role. And so what Laurie did was take a look also at the effect of diversity on canopy structure, and then after that, her last part was putting everything together, and that's where the main part of my talk will be. And so this here is to give you an idea of the plots which Laurie used, which spans across the province of Quebec, and also some plots in the province of Newfoundland. And we're also only concentrating on the plots on the Boreal Shield, so everything which is north of the St. Lawrence River. And so we have almost 10,000 plots with about 25,000 pairs of measurements. And from that, we divided the productivity into the three components of productivity. So first, we took a look at the growth of the trees. So if the tree was present at time 1 and at time 2, so you have the growth of the surviving trees. We also looked at recruitment. So in our permanent sample plots in Quebec, we only measure trees from 9.1 centimeters and above. And so the recruitment is defined as a tree which was absent at year 1 and is present in year 2, or measurement 2. So we have a recruitment. And we also looked at mortality. So mortality, the trees present at time 2, at time 1, but absent at time 2. And so then we have mortality, and everything is looked at in terms of biomass, so megatons per hectare per year. And so this is just a quick glimpse into the first chapter. Is why is it important to look at each one of the components individually and not look at it at just at the net productivity? Is because the effect of each one of the processes, be it tree growth, mortality, or recruitment, changes with diversity. So here we have different diversity measurements, and now we're not talking about species diversity, but a little bit like what Philippe introduced, we're talking about trait diversity. So that if you have two trees with the same type of traits, well, they should have the same type of response. When you have two trees or a couple of species, if you have a large diversity of traits, you should have more complementarity. And so what you can see here, be it one of the dissimilarity indices, be it, let's say, take a look at here, sorry, the one over here. So we're looking at the dissimilarity of 5 traits for the species. You can see that when you have the similar diversity, so similar species, well, then you have the role of recruitment is a lot more important, proportionally more important. And then when you go off, when you have a large diversity, at that point, tree growth plays a lot more importance in your productivity. And so maybe keep this in mind as we go along. And so the second chapter, as I was saying, that we need to have the canopy structure. And so what was done was with a sub-selection of the plots that we had, so working with around 1,300 plots, which were synchronized with an aerial LiDAR flyover. So we had the point cloud. From the point cloud, there were a certain number of canopy structure metrics which were obtained from that, and with that, Laurie used forest inventory measurements, tried to predict canopy structure, and then after that, with those models, well, we reapplied those models on each one of the measurements of the plots so that we can integrate into the analysis crown structure into the measurements. And so what we have, I discussed the dependent variables, so we're looking at survivor growth, recruitment, and mortality, and after that we're trying to explain this with various variables. So we have stand attributes, basal area at the start of the measurement, biomass, standing biomass at the stand of measurement, and so forth. We have the environmental variables, so mean temperature during the growing period, mean precipitation, and we also have 2 wind metrics which we use. The first one was mean wind speed, and the second one is wind load. So wind load, which is calculated with the help from Barry Gardner, so we used the approach which is used in forest gales to get the wind load, and then we also have 7 variables to measure the diversity in traits. And after that, we have the canopy traits, which comes from the model which I just explained, and all of that was put in a big sausage machine, random forests, and to be able to try to get an understanding of the importance of each one of the variables. And what I will look at also, at least today, is just look at the interactions between wind and diversity and canopy. And so here, but we're breaking for lunch. I can talk a little bit more, no? So I'll go very quickly about this. So here we have the importance of each one of the variables. We're talking about survivor growth. We explain just a little bit less than 80% of the variation which is observed. And so what we have is that we have the wind, both the wind load and wind speed, which is important, and a couple of variables, trait variables, which are there. And so here are some of the results. So I'll just go quickly directly to 2 results. The first one here is in the middle graph. So we have the predicted biomass increment for the survivor versus wind load. And then what you have here are the 3 curves for the 95th percentile, 50th percentile, which is a little bit paler, and the lightest curve, which is the 5th percentile of drought tolerance. And so what you can see is that as wind load increases, we have a decrease in productivity, and there's also an interaction with the tolerance to drought, where when there's the wind load is low, then we have the communities with the highest drought tolerance, which has the highest productivity, and that gets flipped around when we get to the highest wind load. Since I misplanned my time, I'll just go quickly into the recruitment. Same thing here. So recruitment, we're explaining around 60%. Once again, wind and the traits are important. And what we can see here is that, at least for the recruitment, the interaction is a lot smaller. And now we'll concentrate here on the interaction between wind load and canopy closure. And once again, so what we have is that we have the biomass increment for the recruitment versus wind load, and then after that we have for the canopy closure, the darkest one is where the canopy is the most closed, and after that the lightest one is where the canopy is more open. And what we can see here is that as the wind load increases, recruitment, or the biomass increment due to recruitment, decreases. But we also have an interaction here where stands which have closed canopies have greater recruitment, which is kind of counterintuitive, because we would have expected canopies are where you have more openness, there's more light which goes down, so there's more possibility for recruitment, so that for the trees to survive and grow and get into the 9.1 centimeter class. But this is not the case, but probably due to some type of facilitation, or due to the closed, due to the fact that the canopy is closed, the recruits are protected and hence can receive there. And so we go down to the mortality. Mortality, we don't explain a lot of the variation, where we only explain 15% of the variation. If you want more information, what I suggest to you is to contact directly my PhD student, or else the manuscript will be submitted shortly, and you can read it in a journal close to your home. So thank you very much.